Patch Literary Afternoon with the INKTANK being hosted at the Neptune Grill. Thank you very much for their hospitality, and I'd just like to I think most of the people here today are familiar with the Blueberry Patch, but I want to let them know that it's a artist retreat that's been in existence here in Gulfport for about 37 years now, dedicated to promoting artists, musicians, writers, all forms of art in the community, and it's an all volunteer-based group. It was started by our founder, Dallas Bower, and he has donated his property to that use, and so we are very fortunate that although he's no longer with us, we have that's taken care of by a lot of volunteers and is going strong, and that's one of the reasons we're here. The INKTANK is a group of volunteers within the Blueberry Patch that are dedicated to the literary arts. And our goal is to just bring awareness and to share our love of literature and focus on different artists, authors, poets that have helped to shape our culture, our society, and to show how what we're reading today and what's popular today has been shaped by all of those that have come before. And that's our take on things. And within the INKTANK, we have also created a book in honor of Dallas. It's called Share to Survive, Surviving to Share, about the Blueberry Patch. It is written by one of our volunteers, and it describes what the Blueberry Patch is all about, gives an interview with the founder, Dallas, and some other interesting little side things that have been written about the patch. And that is also available for sale today. It's $5 if anybody is interested in having a copy. And to move on, we've got our topic today is Robert Frost, internationally known poet and author, one of the formative poets of our modernist era. And normally we have Ian O'Hara here today to give us background and biography on our topic. He's not available to be here today, so I do not have his notes. And so we're just going to wing it a little bit on this one. We've got lots of reading material, and we've got some guests here that I hope will read as well. And for anybody who is familiar with Robert Frost, he's famous for his colloquialisms, his New England background. He wasn't born in New England. He was actually born in San Francisco, California, but his family has a long background in New England, and he was brought back there at a young age due to family situations. And so he's always developed throughout his writing a love of that particular area and nature, the old ways of doing with rural farming in that area. And I have to look and see what I need to say next. His themes. He had some themes that are recurring throughout his work. They deal with nature, and then on another level with human nature, not just Mother Nature. And it's very interesting you can read through his poems and see the top layer and then think about it and say, wow, there's a whole expansion on another level for that. And that's what's made him so popular. And I printed some things off because I did not have material ready. So I printed some things off the internet and was reading them today. And here's something that's kind of some, I'll read a couple of them to you that sum up his importance and things. And in this one it says, in contemporary literary criticism, the editor states, Frost's best work explores fundamental questions of existence, depicting with chilling starkness and the loneliness of the individual in an indifferent universe. Another critic focuses on the bleakness of some of his work, stating that in much of his work, particularly in North of Boston, which is his most famous and one of his earlier works, his harshest book, he emphasizes the dark background of life in rural New England, with its degeneration often sinking into total madness. It's interesting. In sharp contrast, another publisher, editor, emphasizes the folky New England persona and characterizes in Frost's work written that perhaps no other poet in our history has put the best of the Yankee spirit into a book so completely. She notes his frequent use of rural settings and farm life, and she likes that in these poems, Frost is more interested in showing the human reaction to nature's processes. Ready? So I printed some things off the internet, and I was reading them today, and here's something that's kind of I'll read a couple of them to you. Some of his importance. In this one it says, in contemporary literary criticism, the editor states, Frost's best work explores fundamental questions of existence, depicting the chilling starkness and the loneliness of the individual in an indifferent universe. Another critic focuses on the bleakness of some of his work, stating that in much of his work, particularly in North of Boston, which is his most famous and one of his earlier works, his harshest book, he emphasizes the dark background of life in rural New England, with its degeneration often sinking into total madness. In sharp contrast, another publisher, editor, emphasizes the folk New England persona and characterizes in Frost's work written that perhaps no other poet in our history has put the best of the Yankee spirit into a book so completely. She notes the frequent use of rural settings and farm life, and she likes that in these poems, Frost is more interested in showing the human reaction to nature's process. She also notes that while Frost's narrative character-based poems are often satirical, Frost always has a sympathetic humor towards his subject. Born in 1874. And part of what became the modernist movement in poetry, art, literature. Last month we did William Carlos Williams as our topic. He was a contemporary as well, also very, very moved. They were the writers, and T.S. Eliot, which we're going to be doing next month in July, another one, and they were the formative of their age, which was basically between World War I until after World War II. And they had a style of writing, of course, each individually their own, but more minimalist, and how you can get meaning out of simple things. With Robert Frost, it was nature was a recurring theme. William Carlos Williams, it was the everyday man, simple things in life, what you do when you wake up in the morning. But we're able to use short lines, simple words that express it. And in his adult years, he went to Europe. Linda mentioned this earlier when we were chatting. And he was really not well known in America until after he'd gone to Europe and gotten together with Ezra Pound, and William Carlos Williams actually went to Europe as well. There were a group of poets that called the Dymock Poets, and they were a group that after Robert Frost had gone to England, taken his family there, was there for some time, got involved with this group of other poets, and did a lot of writing there. That was the name of their group, and he came out as, so Robert Frost, who was to become the most successful of the men, returned to America in 1915. And during his career as a poet, received 4 Pulitzer Prizes and was honored twice by the Senate, and was also given by President Kennedy the gold medal, Congressional Gold Medal, in recognition of his poetry, which had enriched the culture of the United States and the philosophy of the world. Now, he'd had that all along, but it took a trip to Europe and then come back for it to all start to come together. I have a lot of poems. I know we have some things. I have some more information that I'll go through, but Michael, would you like to stand up and read us a poem, and then we've got lots more to go. We could intersperse it a little bit. Come on up here. Notes.
It's really funny. The poem I was going to read is The Road Less Traveled, and it's on the back of this book. It's the poem that's probably its most popular. I remember studying Frost when I was in high school. It was one part of the curriculum, and we went to said T.S. Eliot, Frost, Poe, and the thing that we remember most about Frost was the poem that was Road Less Traveled, because we were studying to be priests, and the professor said, you're going to be faced with this problem almost every day of your life where you have to make a decision of doing one thing or another. And us studying to be priests was actually the road less traveled for many people in the 60s. It was kind of something, you were either a hippie or you were in Vietnam, and then a group of people decided, well, why don't we become priests? And we were all influenced from, Father Knows Best, or Bing Crosby making those type of movies. And the Catholic Church at that time was very, don't want to say simple, but it was a foundation. There was an everyday life where you got up and went to church, and it was more family orientated. And then the war broke out, and the church started changing a lot because they went from Latin to English, and that was a big change, especially in America, where a lot of people just wouldn't even accept it. Like my father said, they liked the good old days when you didn't understand what the priest was saying, except when he, passed a hat or something like that. So the road less traveled was always facing us, and particularly true in my life, especially leaving the seminary. I went to study to be a social worker, and then I worked in a delicatessen, and was making party trays for all these people on these boats having a good time. I'm going, how do I get to be the party taker, not the party giver? You know, I just wanted to. So the road I was chosen was not to make a whole lot of money. It was like to work. And then I met a magician, and I said, well, that sounds like a good job, but there wasn't any schools or anything like that. There weren't that many magicians. So I decided, well, maybe if I could take clowning and put magic together, which hasn't been done at that time. You either went to the circus and you had circus skills as a juggler or wire walk or something like that. There wasn't that many combination of magic and clowning together, so I decided to take that road a little bit different. And then when I got off the circus, I took the road to bring magic and clowning into a restaurant and a bar, which has never been done in my style, especially working in bars. You come up with a persona of, don't want to say off color, but adult humor, that you're not there doing baby jokes or things like that. And some things that I did as a clown was not acceptable by the Clown Institute of America or Ringling Brothers or things like that. So now I'm at another part of my life where I want to go back to school and study to be a chaplain for a hospice, which is a road less taken. So the poem is it's been around me for a long time, and I haven't remembered it until Martha said, we're going to do Frost. And I said, oh, I remember a poem by Frost. So here we go. Two roads diverge into a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as fast as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then I took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as if for that, and passing there, had worn them both the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first one for another day, yet knowing that way leads to way, I doubt I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged into a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Amen. Okay.
Thank you. I want to share a couple little things. Robert Frost has always been near and dear to my heart from the time I was a child. Growing up in rural New Hampshire, which is something that he wrote about prolifically, and living in an old farmhouse in a little bitty town that really was kind of like spread out and had a long history, but that history sometimes were ghosts and just stone walls, reminders of the people that were there before, but a different culture than what was actually still there right now. So he kind of spoke to me, and this book, it was always tan. It's a little darker brown and curlier and messed up than it used to be, but I've carried it with me. My mom gave it to me when I was a kid. I was probably about 8, 9 years old. And she said, well, Robert Frost, you're learning how to read more adult things now. She said, I have this, and I think you'd really like it, because I would be sent out on chores after I got home from work. And in the wintertime, it would be like clopping through the snow to gather twigs and stuff for kindling. That was one of my little chores. And I always just enjoyed listening to the wind, and I would come home and tell my mom, oh, the trees were so pretty, there's a little dusting of snow on them, and the wind sounded so nice. And she said, this is for you. And I would take it with me, and there was a big rock that I would go sit on and bide some time where I didn't have to do as many chores as I like. Well, I twiddle my thumbs over here, I might not have to do that when I get back. So that's how I started reading Robert Frost. And it really just spoke to me, and I've carried this book with me ever since. And there are a couple of ones that were always favorites, and this one is one of his more popular ones, more commonly known than some of his work. And it's Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. It said, "Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer. Stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and the frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds, the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep." And that was always like a favorite of mine. And what was the other one? This one, there again, as a kid, this is memories. This is bringing back memory lane to me to do Robert Frost. The tree at my window, because I had a tree like this out my window. And it says, "Tree at my window, window tree, my sash is lowered when night comes on, but let there never be curtain drawn between you and me. Vague dream head lifted out of the ground, and thing next most I fuse to cloud. Not all your light tongues talking aloud could be profound, but, tree, I have seen you taken and tossed, and you have seen me when I slept. You have seen me when I was taken and swept and all but lost. That day she put our heads together. Fate had her imagination about her. Your head so much concerned with outer, mine with inner weather." I just kind of like it.
Tijan, this dream's where you belong. Your golden journey